We're always told that finance is this super complex, math-based field. But the truth? Doing well with money has way less to do with what you know and a whole lot more to do with how you act. It's not about some crazy spreadsheet formula. It's about the stories we tell ourselves and all the hidden biases that are secretly running the show. And in this explainer, we are diving deep into the biggest lessons from Morgan Housel's amazing book on exactly that. All right, to kick things off, let's jump into this incredible real-life story about two American guys who could not be more different.
So, on one side, we've got Ronald Reed. He was a janitor and a gas station attendant in rural Vermont. And on the other side, Richard Fuscone, a Harvard-educated, big-shot finance executive at Merrill Lynch. I mean, their backgrounds are polar opposites. Reed lived this really quiet, simple life, while Fuscone was living it up in an 18,000 square foot mansion with like 11 bathrooms. Basically, the poster child for Wall Street success.
Okay, so place your bets. If you had to guess, who do you think ended up the multimillionaire and who went totally broke? The Harvard MBA or the humble janitor?
You ready for this? It was Ronald Reed. He just patiently saved what little he could, put it into solid blue-chip stocks, and then he just waited. Meanwhile, the high-flying executive Fuscone took on a mountain of debt, got greedy, and was completely wiped out in the 2008 financial crisis.
And that story right there perfectly captures the core idea of this whole thing. Financial success is not a hard science. It's a soft skill. The gap in their financial training was massive, sure, but in the end, Ronald Reed's patience completely crushed Richard Fuscone's greed. So if behavior is more important than being a genius, that leads us to our next big point. What seems totally rational to you might look absolutely nuts to somebody else. And it all boils down to your own personal history with money, which pretty much shapes your entire worldview. Just take a look at this. If you were born in 1950, this thin gray line shows what the stock market did when you were in your teens and 20s. I mean, for years, it basically went nowhere. Your life experience would teach you, stocks are a pretty boring way to build wealth. But now, look at the bold black line. If you were born just 20 years later in 1970, you saw the market go up 10 times over during those exact same formative years of your life. Your experience taught you a totally different lesson. Stocks are an unbelievable wealth-building machine. Same market, two completely different realities. So here's the key takeaway. No one is crazy. We're all just playing a totally different game, and the rules were written by our own little slice of history. Your personal experience is this tiny, tiny fraction of what's happened in the world, but man, it makes up like 80% of how you think the world actually works. And if our own histories shape our beliefs so much, we've got to talk about the two powerful forces that write a huge part of that history. Forces we usually ignore: luck and risk. They're like identical twins, and trust me, they're everywhere. Let's talk about Bill Gates. His incredible success story, it kicks off with a massive, massive dose of pure luck. Yeah, he worked hard, but he was also in the right place at the right time in a way that is just, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. Think about it. The chances of him ending up at Lakeside High, one of the only high schools on the entire planet with a computer back in 1968, were literally about 1 in a million. That's not just a nice head start, that's staggering luck. But here's the thing about luck. It has an identical twin called risk. And it hit Gates's best friend, Kent Evans, just as hard. Evans was just as smart, just as driven, and the two of them planned on conquering the world together. Evans absolutely would have been a co-founder of Microsoft, but he died in a tragic mountaineering accident before they even graduated. The odds of that happening? Also 1 in a million. It's the same invisible force, with the same incredible power as Gates's luck, just pointed in the exact opposite direction. When you really get how big a role luck and risk play, it should make you humble. But a lot of the time, it doesn't. Instead, we fall into this super dangerous trap, the social comparison game, where the goalpost for enough just keeps on moving. I mean, look at guys like Raja Gupta, the CEO of McKinsey, and Bernie Madoff. Both of them were already fantastically wealthy, all through legal means. Gupta was worth $100 million. Madoff's legit business was basically a money printing machine. And yet, they threw it all away. Why? Because they were so desperate for more that they turned to crime. They risked everything they had and needed for something they didn't have, and definitely didn't need.
They simply had no sense of what enough was. This reminds me of this powerful story about Joseph Heller, the author of Catch-22. He's at a party and someone points out that a hedge fund billionaire there made more money in a single day than Heller's classic novel had made in its entire history. Heller's response was perfect. He just said, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough." So, how do we avoid that trap and build real, lasting wealth? Well, it comes down to understanding a really important difference. See, getting money is one thing, but keeping it, that's a totally different skill. And you could argue it's the one that really matters.
Okay, we all know Warren Buffett, right? The guy is an absolute legend when it comes to investing. His knack for picking winning companies is world famous.
But what if I told you his real secret, the true engine of his massive wealth, is simply time? It's the fact that he's been investing consistently since he was 10 years old. He didn't just get amazing returns, he got pretty good returns that he was able to stick with for an incredibly long time. Now, get ready for this, because this is where the power of compounding gets absolutely mind-blowing. Of Buffett's $84.5 billion net worth, over $81 billion of it came after his 65th birthday. If he'd started investing at 30 and retired at 60 like a normal person, he'd be worth around $12 million, not $84 billion. That means 99.9% of his wealth is not due to being a genius, it's due to survival and time. So you see, getting money and keeping money are two completely different skills. Getting it requires taking risks, being optimistic. But keeping it? That requires the total opposite, humility, and a little bit of paranoia that you could lose it all tomorrow. It's about surviving long enough to let your money do the work. And that's really the question it all boils down to, isn't it? Getting rich can be a flash in the pan, just a lucky break. But staying rich, that's what creates real generational wealth. That's what lets compounding work its magic. So you have to ask yourself, is your plan built for a one-time lottery win, or is it built to survive?